All right, ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. If you would please take your seats, and if I could please have your attention, we will get on with the program now that the tables have been cleared. If you're feeling a little sluggish following lunch, as people sometimes are, you know, after they eat their lunch, they're starting to feel a little sluggish, a little sleepy. Well, I can guarantee you that our next speaker is going to have you wide awake. Anne McElhinney is an Irish journalist and documentary filmmaker. Now, you might think, documentary filmmaker, that sounds kind of boring. Wrong, wrong, wrong. Radical environmentalists have compared McElhinney's work to pornography and Nazi propaganda, and she's received several death threats. Her upcoming film is Fracking, a film that will look behind the exaggerations and tell the truth about fracking. In 2009, Anne produced and directed a movie called Not Evil, Just Wrong, a film which critiqued concerns about global warming. Previously, Anne produced and directed Mind Your Own Business, the first documentary that asks the difficult questions of the environmental movement. She is an inspiring and humorous speaker, and at CPAC 2009, she was actually voted most popular speaker after only Ann Coulter and Rush Limbaugh. Let's give a rousing Rocky Mountain welcome to Anne McElhinney.
You know, 10 years ago, my description of you wouldn't have liked. I thought you were right-wing nutjobs. I thought that you homeschooled children, which made you kind of weird. And I had a conversion experience. I had an extraordinary experience that changed everything. And I think it's instructive, because I think I'm a nice person, and I think most people are nice and are good at heart. But no one ever told me about capitalism. I was 38 years old, and I had never heard of it. Only that it was, you know, that businesses were run basically by serial killers, rapists, you know, people who basically, you know, mining was done by people who go out with large buckets and spread arsenic on the land. You know, that's who they were. That's all I ever knew. Until I did a story. I was a journalist. I did a story in Romania about a gold mining company trying to open a mine up in Transylvania, and two environmentalists, two foreigners, went in there and stole the dreams of a very, very impoverished community. And I became a looper for capitalism. I became a lunatic for capitalism. And if you're not a lunatic for capitalism, we're all in real trouble here. But Poland and all of Eastern Europe right now is controlled, their energy is controlled by whom? Exactly. Is Russia a friend to Poland? Guess who doesn't want fracking in Poland? Vladimir Putin made a speech about it. Vladimir Putin is concerned about the environment. Well, there's a first. There's a first. The next thing we're going to hear, the Chinese care about the environment. And by the way, here's something that you need to hang on to, and this is very important. Environmentalists say that they love windmills. They love windmills. Well, apparently they love the bald eagle too. Well, guess what? You can't have both. You can't have both. There are consequences to things. So your endangered species all over this country are getting killed by those windmills. Here's another thing about the environmentalists. They love those windmills. But guess what they don't like? They don't like copper mining. So they won't allow the copper mine up there in Alaska, the Pebble mine, to open. Yeah? But you know what? You can't have a windmill without copper. Join the dots, for God's sake. And they're telling terrible lies. If they get away with these lies, the consequences are terrible for us. The gas industry, this thing that's happened, my God, do people understand the miracle that's happened here? This is incredible what's happened to communities in Pennsylvania and upstate New York. Well, upstate New York is very sad. But in communities all across Pennsylvania, in Texas, in Oklahoma, you guys know, you're from those places. Tiny towns across this country that were dead have opened up the shutters. This is something great. And you know what happens to young men who don't have a job? This is not a healthy community. I have been up in Michigan recently, and it's beautiful. You see these young men, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 driving a truck. This is great, and this is the American dream, and you have to fight for it.
We're not gonna
Good morning. Good afternoon. Let's see if this is working. It's great to be here. It's a great honor, and thank you so much for including me in your schedule of events. Have we got oh, good. We've got a screen. Look at a nice photograph of me and my husband. I'm still wearing the hat. I'm not planning on taking it off anytime soon. Let me do this. Okay, we're in Steamboat. Is that? Please tell me that's appearing on screen somewhere. Technology. Any good? Not happening. Just talk among yourselves. It's all good. If this doesn't work, it doesn't matter. We'll live without it. I don't know why it's not working. Anyone have any ideas? I can do fine without it, by the way. It's connected. It's connected. Oh, disconnected and connected again. That's my husband's answer to everything. Turn it off and turn it back on again. Okay, one more time. With feeling. Oh! Yes. You see? Turn it on and turn it off again. So as I said, it's great to be here, and I think the best way to start, and I think the introduction actually gave a fair idea of who I am and where I come from, but I think it's useful maybe to really explain my background, because it's kind of, sometimes I look at situations I'm in and think, how did I get here? Like, what am I doing with this group? 10 years ago, I was as liberal as Nancy Pelosi. I'm sorry for lowering the tone and making you upset. Well, Newt Gingrich thought it was good enough to sit in a chair with her, so, you know. I'm not a big fan of Newt Gingrich, just to mention that quite early on. You know, I was a European journalist, and the default position of European journalists is to be super liberal and to have a disdain, at the very least, a disdain for business, and probably, in most cases, an outright aggression towards capitalists and business of any kind, and particularly anybody who's trying to do resource development. But I'm jumping ahead of the game. I was an innocent. This isn't me, by the way. This is an incredibly cute child who is my goddaughter. This is Tessa. Isn't she ridiculous? But I was like her. I was an innocent, and I met a man, and I moved to Romania. My husband was the Financial Times correspondent for Romania and Bulgaria. And I did what a lot of sort of expat wives, I don't know, has anyone been an expat wife? Have you ever done that? Oh, great. I recommend it highly. I spent the first year, you know, drinking and playing tennis and eating lunches that went on so long that we had to order dinner. And I did that for a long time. Then I decided to write a trashy novel, and then halfway through that I thought, you know something, I don't like this anymore. And I said to my husband one day, I think I'd like to be a journalist. And my mother, who passed away last August, used to talk about the hand of God. She'd always talked about the hand of God. It's the hand of God. And I mean, you know, actually, there might be something in that, because I literally said that, and within hours, a friend came from the Irish Embassy to visit us in our apartment in Bucharest and said, isn't it really sad about the man in the suitcase, the body in the suitcase? And to back up, 2 weeks before that, a body had been discovered in a suitcase in the Grand Canal in Dublin, dead. The body had been in the water for 2 weeks, and for the first time in Irish history, they published a photograph of the guy because they couldn't identify him. They couldn't get any information on him. So the whole of Ireland were fascinated by this body in a suitcase, and I had just learned that he had been identified, and he was Romanian, and his mother was coming into Bucharest to go to Ireland, to get a visa, to go to Ireland to identify the body. And my husband looked at me and said, so, you want to be a journalist? And I don't know, anyone who's a journalist here, I mean, I really appreciated the comments earlier. It's an amazing privilege to be a journalist. It's an incredible responsibility, but it's such great fun. And I started my journalism career. Most people start their journalism career by doing egg and spoon races and garden fetes. And they're like under the fold. There's this big thing about being under the fold on page 17 and no one reads your stuff. My very first story was front page news everywhere. And my husband said to me, it's not always going to be like this. But actually, bizarrely, I did a whole number of stories in Romania which all ended up being front page news, but not because of me, because they were just amazing stories. And by the way, that guy in the suitcase, He had a Russian girlfriend. Do I need to go any further than that? He wouldn't be the first guy who had a Russian girlfriend who ended up in a suitcase at the bottom of a canal. So it was a great story, a brilliant story. It went on and on and on. The mother, actually the whole story about meeting the mother and all of that, because I was all excited about doing my story and going to interview this woman, and I had a huge big microphone and I had a tape recorder. I was like, it was all about me. It was all about me, until I saw her. And I thought, oh my God, this woman has just lost her son. So of course I started crying, 3 tears out of each eye, and my husband's going, who said, I'll go with you on the story, but you have to do all the work. And he's like going. So, but I think she was actually impressed that I was so upset. And my very first question to her was, how many are in your family? How many children do you have? And she said, don't you know, didn't they tell you? This is my only child. So she said, you are going to find the killer. You are going to find my son's killer. And I said, which you shouldn't do, I said, yes, I will. And yes, I did. So it was great. And we put 3 people in prison. Marvelous. So, and from there I did all kinds of stories. I did great stories. I mean, just great. And it's been just great. And I could talk forever about the stories. Just brilliant. But for the purposes of being here, to understand the person I was and the person I became, who people don't speak to anymore, the story that happened was like this. Discovery of the largest gold deposit in Europe was discovered in Transylvania. A Canadian mining company wanted to go and explore it. And we were sent, my husband for the Financial Times and me for the Irish Times and for RTE, to go up and find out the story. And like most liberal journalists, we had the story written before we left the house. Because everyone had been there. CNN had been there. New York Times had been there. Everyone had been there. BBC had been there. Evil Canadian miners, you know how evil those Canadians are. Evil Canadians, innocent locals who never can speak for themselves, and then heroic, outsider, foreign environmentalists who are going to save the town from this atrocity. So I went up, all happy-clappy, met with the 2 foreign environmentalists from Greenpeace, who told an extraordinary story, like shocking. Forced resettlement of the local people, arsenic, death, destruction, rape, plunder, all that good stuff. Very impressive. Then I spoke to the evil Canadians, who didn't seem very evil at all, and seemed incredibly transparent about what they were planning to do. And basically everything that the environmentalists had said was in complete contradiction with what the Canadian mining company were planning to do. And then I spoke to the locals. One of the things that they needed to do to proceed with this mine was to destroy the town, destroy the village of Rocha Montana, which is, excuse my French, a shithole. And I can tell you with great authority that the people who live there think that. So I'm not insulting anyone. They live with intermittent electricity in really horrendous, horrific 19th century living conditions. Their lives are really horrible. The Canadians said, you live in that house. By the way, the market value of those homes before the Canadians came was 0. Your house doesn't have any value if there is no one to buy it. It doesn't matter what you think. Oh God, doesn't matter how nice you put the paint on it. If there are no buyers, it has no value. There were no buyers. The Canadians came in and said, we'll buy your apartment, your 1-bedroom horrible hovel. We'll buy it, and what we'll give you in exchange will look like this. And they built a house in the town and said, this is what the house will look like. And so the house was 2-story Swiss chalet, gorgeous. And I went into that because they built it and said to people, come in and have a look, because this is what you can live in if you want. Your choice. And I met an 85-year-old woman in there who was crying. And I said, like, what's wrong with her? What's wrong with you? And she said, I just hope I live long enough to live in a house like this. She didn't. So I became a different person. I became a different person, and I think anyone who would experience a story like that and would remain steadfastly adhering to the dogma and to the ideological lies of Greenpeace after that is a very strange person. This, by the way, is the heroic outsider, the Belgian, who destroyed the dreams of the people of that town. She said, this is a quote from her, this is on the Greenpeace website to this day, the illegal, forced resettlement of people has already begun. Illegal and forced. This is Romania, by the way. It has a bit of a history of forced resettlements. You can imagine how sensitive the Romanians would be, the free Romanians would be, to forced resettlements by Canadians. Canadians. And by the way, illegal is so easy. When an illegal thing happens, there's a report. The police will have a report. So I've asked all these years for one name, one family, who were illegally forced to leave their homes. And do you know something? The silence is just deafening. And I learned a thing about Greenpeace. I thought, oh my God, I've learned this amazing thing about Greenpeace. I am going to win a Pulitzer Prize. You see, the innocence that I was. It's incredible. I told you, I was a child. I thought, oh my God, I'm going to get so famous here. Greenpeace lie and get away with it. And I know that, and I'm going to publicize it. And everyone's going to want to publish the story. Okay. No wonder I moved to America, the only country in the world that has any sense left. So I became this kind of lunatic. And I thought, oh my God, this is incredible. And we decided to make a documentary called Mind Your Own Business, which I would highly recommend. I wish I'd brought loads of them to sell today. But you need to go online and buy them in multiple doses and buy them for your idiot liberal kids who have come home from college after being destroyed. After being destroyed. They left you and they were wonderful. They left you and they were wonderful, smart children. And they came back after a dose of Berkeley or any other of those Ivy League schools, and they are talking utter nonsense. You look at them and think, what? All of their common sense is completely dissipated, and they've all done too many years of women's studies and empowerment poetry classes for lesbians, and they just have lost it. They have lost it completely. And you say to them, what are you going to do with your life? And they want to do things that you think, that's not even a job. I want to get involved in sustainability. I have a lot to say about sustainability. We made this film and we thought, if this thing is happening in Romania, is it possible it's happening anywhere else? And we made Mind Your Own Business. And we met this woman, Stephanie Roth, but we met this guy as well. Here's a quote from Mind Your Own Business, from the head of the WWF, the World Wildlife Fund. Big job, a guy that we interviewed when we went to Madagascar to look at a similar mining project that we're trying to stop there. And he said, basically, yeah, they're really poor here, but they smile all the time. They smile. Yeah, they smile all the time, and their children are dying before their 5th birthday. Not good enough. And this guy, a bit like Stephanie Roth and all the rest of them, want to stop development. They want to stop things. They think it's like a zoo. They think Africa is like a zoo. They want to go there, and they want to look at people, primitive people. They think it's kind of fun. Let's watch people making baskets. Why don't they try making baskets for a living? And you talk to any basket weaver in Africa, and I've spoken to loads of them. I didn't do interviews in front of them and talk about them. I actually asked them what they thought. They hate basket weaving. They all want to move to Connecticut. So this is Mind Your Own Business, the poster, and you have to do that. The funny thing that happened after Mind Your Own Business was, nothing about Mind Your Own Business happened in America. And we kind of, it's amazing when I think back, and one of these days I'm going to do this. You can't believe the bile that is taught to young people in Europe about America. It's really gross. I was told that Ronald Reagan was retarded. That's what we got. Oh yeah, that's what I got. And that America, oh yeah, just incredible stuff about America. Amazing, amazing. But anyway, we made this film, Mind Your Own Business, and we discovered America, basically, because all these Americans started writing to us saying, God, come over to here, come over, we want you to talk at things. So anyway, just amazing, just amazing. So then we thought we'd make a film about Al Gore. So we made a film called Not Evil, Just Wrong, and what we did was we looked at the history of the environmental movement with Rachel Carson. You've all heard of Rachel Carson, who's responsible for killing 30 million children. 30 million children, and guess what they have? And I just wish somebody would do this someday. I just am busy, but I wish somebody would do this. Why doesn't somebody take up a crusade to remove that woman's name from every library in America? Every library, every educational establishment, and and schools. There's a school in Seattle called, with little children in it, little small ones, the Rachel Carson School. How would you do that? Why would you do that? Put the name of a woman who's responsible for 30 million deaths on the front of the school. And by the way, who every day continues to be responsible for deaths. 370 children every day in Uganda die under 5. 370 every day, unnecessarily from malaria, because of idiots like Rachel Carson and all of the crowd that follow her. and talk absolute nonsense about pesticides. Absolute nonsense about pesticides. People need to get out a history book, for God's sake, and read about what it was like to farm in the days before pesticides. Organic. Try it. Good luck. Enjoy. Because you know something? There's loads of places where you can do it. The whole of Africa is organic. Not working out great for them. Who are these people? So I became obsessed then, as I did these stories. Who are these people? Who are these environmentalists? They have an awful lot of things in common. They're always rich. I haven't found one yet who is struggling money-wise. They're always very, very rich, and they've had far too much education that's made them very silly. People like this guy. Do you know who this guy is? This guy is the head of the IPCC. This guy is the head of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. This guy has the whole world panicked that we're all about to die because of global warming. And this is what this guy says. Do you see the quote? We're all consuming too much. We all consume too much. Let's just check this guy out himself. Guess what he did? He likes cricket. He's Indian, by the way. He likes cricket, but he has a place in New York. I just love a place in New York. That's my ambition. I'm going to have a place in New York. He has a place in New York, but he has a place in India too. And he just loves cricket. So he flew to India to watch the Indian cricket team practice. Not a game. He just flew to India to watch them practice for a couple of days, and then he went back to his place in New York. And then he talks about consumerism. The cheek of him. The absolute cheek of him. Or idiots like this. This is James Cameron, who made a film called Avatar that the whole world has seen. Every young person on the planet that lives in a developed country has seen this film. This film can be summarized as this. America is evil. Mining is evil, and American military are the most evilest thing in the evil place. And he thinks we should live with less. We made a little documentary about him. I should have brought it, but anyway, you can watch it online on YouTube. It's called James Cameron Hypocrite. It's very easy to remember. And what we did was, we got a little helicopter and we decided we'd look at what he lives, what his less looks like. So he has not one, not two, but 3 houses in Malibu. So I'd like to live with his less. That's my plan. I want his less. He has 3 houses in Malibu. He has a farm in Santa Barbara. Don't we love Santa Barbara? And he has a fleet of submarines. He has his own fire truck. You know, you should watch the documentary. It's really funny. This guy, as well, thinks he can tell the world about environmentalism. Don't you love him? Don't he look very smart in his little suit? He thinks it's good to make it cool to live with less stuff. I don't think I have to detail the stuff he has, but I'd like his stuff. I'd like his stuff. I would not like the stuff that's between his ears, but I like all his other stuff. And then there's guys like this fellow, which I think is worth mentioning. I'm going to try out loads of stuff here, because afterwards I think we'll have some questions, hopefully. But otherwise, if we don't get questions, I can talk to people afterwards. I want to show this guy. This guy is from Ireland. Not all the idiots, are here. So this guy is from Ireland. His name is Dr. John O'Connor. Has anyone come across this guy? No. You've heard of the oil sands? Yes, in Alberta. A miracle, a miracle. Those Canadians are very nice. You have nice neighbors who have an awful lot of oil. That's a nice thing. This guy works in Alberta as a doctor, and he works with native communities. Once you work with native communities, by the way, apparently, everything you say is just slightly at a different level. Have you noticed that? But this guy, Dr. John O'Connor, anyway, he works with the native communities in Alberta, and he came out with an extraordinary statement. He said that he had been examining the locals and he had discovered 5 cases of a very rare cancer, and also that he reported the death of a very young man from colon cancer. Now, which is called a cluster, by the way. They call this a cluster of cancer. And by the way, cancer is really serious. We all buck up when we heard the word cancer. It has a real impact. It gets us. It gets all of us, because it's what scares the living daylights out of us. So this is what this guy says. This is what a medical doctor says. So Health Canada we're very concerned, because they're going to be concerned about any clusters of cancer. So they get in touch with this guy and say, and I know we have a few medical doctors here, so it'll be interesting to you for this story, and I can give you all the background. They said, oh God, we need to know all about this. Send all the files, because they have to monitor clusters of cancers. Can you send the files? Could you send the files? We wrote to you 2 weeks ago. Do you remember that? We wrote to you 2 months ago. We phoned your secretary. Did your secretary get the message? Eventually the secretary was crying on the phone, by the way. She used to cry because these people were phoning up looking for the files. And time and time and time went on, and time and time and time went on. Guess what? He made it up. He made it up. He's in 5 documentaries that I have counted. They're shown on the National Geographic, PBS, the works. He's still working as a doctor. And guess what he's doing now? Remind me of him, because guess what he does now? He now lectures around the world about how dangerous fracking is. You can't make this stuff up. This is who these people are. Paul Ehrlich. And don't any of you who think that this is dated information, you remember the time bomb or whatever, or the population bomb. You remember this story, yeah? This guy still has tenure in Stanford. This guy, look at the quote. I mean, read the quote. This guy won the, what's it called, the MacArthur Genius Award in 2010. In 2010, are we looking at the dates here? He won a Genius Award. This guy won a Genius Award in 2010. We're all getting this, yeah? Apparently everyone was meant to be dead in what year? Correct. So I just gave you kind of a sample. These people are everywhere. Everyone in this room has met one of these people. You know them. They're usually very articulate as well. And when you challenge them, they all do the very same thing. They say, basically, you're fat. They basically personally insult you because they have absolutely nowhere to go on the facts. And I have had hate mail. I have had people write to me and say, I hope your children are born retarded. That's hardly an intelligent, rational argument. I hope you get what Hitler's henchmen got and that you were hung from a short rope. Not very rational. When we come out with mind your own business, not evil, just wrong, we've had no one challenge us on the facts. No one. Getting challenged on the facts, that's scary. You're in trouble. No, we don't like you. A guy I know from Ireland wrote and said, I hope you fail. It's really tough when you get it from somebody you know. Anyway, this is all far too heavy. I want to talk about my energy policy. We're moving on to energy now. My own energy policy is... and most people in this room probably have the same energy policy. Cold beer and washing machines. Whoever invented the washing machine, and I am very serious about this, and I love saying this on university campuses. I'll tell you, a girl nearly wet herself in Pennsylvania on a very liberal campus. She was a self-described communist, lesbian, revolutionary. And you should have seen her eyes pop out when I said, do you know what I think? I said, I think that the washing machine did more to liberate women than the pill. I thought she was going to explode. I thought she was actually going to explode. It's quite good to watch, actually. But I have an experience that she doesn't have. I have been in Africa and watched intelligent women devote a lifetime to washing clothes. What a waste. What a waste, 3 days a week, washing clothes. What a ridiculous waste. When you could be drinking a nice margarita, when you could be writing a paper, when you could be curing cancer. That woman could be curing cancer and she's washing clothes. Liberation. They need to go back to the drawing board on that one. So this is my own energy policy, and also things like artificial hips. How amazing is the artificial hip? I think it's bizarre. My father had an artificial hip done at 91, and my sister's a doctor, and she got him done by a friend of hers or whatever. And she was saying, look, she said to the guy, you know, the orthopedic guy, she said, you know, he's 91. She said, well, he doesn't, the guy says, well, he doesn't look it. And the guy looks at Dad and says, this is going to be over in about a half an hour. I'm going to use about a half a cup of blood. No problem. And I swear to God, my father was doing the rain dance after it. It was unbelievable. Immediate. And you know, anyone who's had it done, they all jump around very, very fast after it. Incredible. The artificial hip, the iPad, I'm like, they tried to separate me today from my iPad. Good luck with that. This isn't happening. It's like another part of me. Air conditioning. Sure, look at the places in the world that you cannot live in these places. You cannot live in Singapore. You cannot live in these places. You cannot live in Florida. You cannot live in Texas. You cannot live in all these places without air conditioning. You cannot do that. Or if you do live there, you're certainly not going to do any work. I mean, you know, it's incredible. And by the way, the opposite of it is also true. Imagine Alaska without a good heating system. Unbelievable. Heart transplants, amazing, amazing that people can have, amazing, just beyond belief. And by the way, a colleague of mine, Bart Seidels, donated a kidney to his friend. By the way, how heroic is that? But on top of that, do you know, they take a piece out of you to give a piece to the other person's walking around. It's all good. But you need electricity for that. And flush toilets. Flush toilets. How many people here have had the joy of the non-flush toilet environment? Would you wish it on your worst enemy? Do you know something? I wouldn't wish it. I wouldn't even wish it on an environmentalist. And that's saying a lot. And death at 90 plus. Death at 90 plus. You know, we need to really not take this for granted. And I have to say, I live in California, God between us and all harm. But, and what's really funny is I live on the beach. How nice. And in the mornings, people are out on the beach. And I swear, the thing that I love most is these guys. And I'm looking at them. These guys are over 90 and they're jogging. And I'm thinking, go for it, sir. You go for it. And I have a brilliant story that I'm going to quickly drop in here because it doesn't happen everywhere. I went to a party in Beverly Hills. Name drop, name drop, name drop. In the house, actually. In the house where, you remember the two boys who killed their parents? That house. I was in that house. Very nice house. Those boys aren't enjoying that house now. But those two boys, yeah, exactly. So in that house, I meet a guy, this man, he's not young, and he's talking about his father. He's going on about his father. I'm thinking, right. Now, hang on here. How old is your father? And he said, let me tell you about my father. My father is 101. He still drives and he plays bridge. And the guys at the bridge club, when he had his 100th birthday was coming up, the guys at the bridge club phoned the local newspaper and said, you might want to send a photographer down here. This guy's going to be 100 and he's great crack. The crack, by the way, in Ireland means fun. It's not to do with drugs, okay? Relax. So he's great fun and you want to send a photographer. And guess what they said to him? No. It's not a story. Phone us when he's 105. And all I say is, that doesn't happen a lot in Africa. Don't take it for granted. And it's all about electricity. It's all about energy. It's all about energy. So let's look at energy very quickly, and I'm not going to be boring. All of the energy comes from fossil fuels. That's basically what you need to know. All of it. It's all from fossil fuels. The other little bit that's called renewable is hilarious. Like, look at it, right? Look at the renewable thing. I just love this. This is why I don't like environmentalists. Some renewable energy works really well. Hydroelectric works tremendously well. It's brilliant. I'm a big one for the hydroelectric. Guess who doesn't like hydroelectric? Environmentalists. Do you know that they're closing dams? Do you know that? They're closing down dams. They're closing down like 2, I think, at the moment in California. They're getting rid of them. So the renewable power that doesn't give off CO2 emissions, whatever, and is renewable, they don't like that. And it works. Hydroelectric works. All the good things, apparently, but they don't like it. The other one that works really well, do you see the other one that works really well? And I love that it's here, and you never hear it mentioned. They never mention it. And if you want to annoy an environmentalist, which I do find very amusing, always mention that other renewable power. Make them just swallow it. Wood. Wood is a renewable power. It's renewable. And the thing a lot of environmentalists don't know, and I just love pointing it out to them, is that trees grow. Trees grow, but they don't know that. They don't know that. So the two parts of the renewable energy mix that really work, they don't like. This is not about CO2 emissions. This isn't even about renewable power. It's not about any of that. None of this is about any of that. And I will prove it to you. They talk about impacts. They're always talking about impacts. Well, here's a news flash. Everything has an impact. And you know, I just love impacts. I love impacts, and I particularly love, I say to people, my ambition in life is to make my own life as unnatural as I possibly can. That's my ambition. I want to get rid of everything natural. I only want unnatural things in my life, because they seem to work out really well. Check out all that natural stuff, like anthrax. Don't want that. Anyone going for that anthrax? That's natural, by the way. Cancer is natural. Anyone up for that? Yeah, I'm not for that. Living to 95 is not natural. Are we for that? Hell yes. Oh yes, I'm voting for that every time. And to be out playing bridge and driving a car at 100, I'm for that. And that isn't natural. I want to reclaim the language. And I'm really annoyed by conservatives buying into that language. Natural. It's nonsense. Natural. What's natural? Like, what is natural? People need to go back to the drawing board, and they need to do a lot of reading and find out about what natural looks like, up close and personal. It's crap. Natural is terrible. The animals that are out there will eat you. Your own dog, by the way, in a certain circumstance will eat you, even though he's lovely. And I'm sure he's lovely and terribly loyal, but he will eat you. So they talk about impacts, and in my little introduction you saw basically the two things about wind power that I think need to be always pointed out to environmentalists. One is that they kill birds, and apparently they love birds. And the other thing is copper mining. So they hate copper mining, but they seem to need copper for the windmills, join the dots, get rational, and point that out to them all the time. The next time you see a Greenpeace person wanting you to sign some silly petition, say to them that you want to know what copper mine are Greenpeace supporting. They won't allow this Pebble mine, and everyone here should have an opinion about Pebble. Even if you don't know about it, it's in Alaska. It's one of these amazing, amazing, huge deposits of copper. You should be tweeting about it. Who tweets in this room? Hands up. Very disappointing. I'm coming back to that. And they have pictures like this. On Greenpeace's website, they have pictures like this. Oh my God, this is meant to be a bad thing. I think this is a lovely thing. I think that's great. You know what they do with that whole, some people in this room know this stuff, but an amazing number of people who don't know this stuff. When they finish with that hole, that will become a lake, and people will play there. And the land around there will be more valuable than land anywhere else. It's the same as that thing that they talk about, the mountaintop removal, by the way, in Virginia. It's not mountaintop removal in West Virginia. It's not. It's hilltop removal. They're hills. And you know how many hills are in West Virginia? Too many to count. And you know what happens when they finish off, when they take that mountaintop away? They use it. They have a prison on one, they have schools there, they have golf courses, and it's really valuable land. And you could end up with a house up there with a nice view. Very good. But then environmentalists don't care about people. Then they love the solar panels. They love the solar panels, but you know the problem with the solar panels? Well, first of all, of course, the solar panels and the windmills don't work. That's, of course, kind of the classic problem with them. That they don't work all the time, and until they find a way to store the electricity, it's a real drama. They also take up a huge amount of space. And you know this thing about footprint? Footprint. We should reclaim the word footprint and show these people how much of a footprint there would be and how much land would be taken up by these ugly windmills and these ugly, ugly solar panels if they were to get their way. And by the way, I love this little joke about solar panels, which is 100% true. In California, where I live, they've done a statistic on this. In an awful lot of cases where they're putting the solar panels up on the houses, they're not putting them on the south-facing roof because the road is on the north-facing and they want the neighbours to see the solar panels. And you know, they love the geothermal. They love the geothermal. This is the largest geothermal plant in the world. Oh God, am I running out of time? Am I? No. Okay, I'm all good. Somebody tell me, how long have I been here? Half an hour? It's all good. Geothermal, this is the largest geothermal plant in the world. It's in Northern California. And when anyone talks to you about earthquakes caused by fracking, this thing causes earthquakes all the time. Have you heard that from the environmentalists? I don't think so. And they just love the electric car. They just love the electric car. And you know, I think the electric car, God between us and all harm, here's one of my favorite things to do. I love to laugh at people driving those Priuses in California. And I laugh at them, and I'm laughing at them, and I'm looking at them, and I'm looking at them, and thinking, oh my God, you're such an idiot. You don't even realize that that car is powered by coal, you idiot. You know, and apparently coal is a bad thing. Apparently coal is a bad thing, and they don't know that. And then just to, you know, I'm just running through stuff here, and because I'm getting on to fracking, which is the thing I'm here to talk about. All renewable power, all of the renewable power stuff, all of it, needs rare earth. All of it. And it's a big, big problem because it all comes from China. 95% of the rare earth that's used for windmills, for the electric car, for all that stuff, comes from China. And here's what you need to know. Rare earth is not rare. It's everywhere. Okay? So it's not rare at all. Why is it that it's not mined here? Because it's super, super, super polluting. And it's a real problem to try and mine it safely. And America is trying to get permission to do that. But environmentalists don't want them to have a rare earth mining plant. There's a great amount of rare earth, by the way, in California. So instead of that, they're going to get the rare earths from China, and you know how much the Chinese care about the environment. Anyone been to Beijing? Nightmare. Yeah. It's all good. Fracking. Now, last night I met a very nice friend from Kansas. They're there. And she said a very important thing, and so it's stopping me. So I'm making a film about fracking. And the lady said to me, what is fracking? So I'm going to explain it to you in really fast. Fracking is a way of extracting oil and natural gas out of the ground. It's a technology. They started doing it in 1947. The first fracked well was in Kansas. And here's what it looks like and what it looked like. A pipe went straight down about a mile. And at the bottom, they pushed out at a huge, huge pressure water, sand, and some chemicals to break up the rock. And out of that rock, out of that shale rock, would come oil and natural gas. Yeah? So they've been at it forever, all over the country. It's been going on forever and ever and ever and ever. And the actual frack, that day of the dramatic thing, goes on for about 2 or 3 days. Then it stops. And God bless America, can you believe this? This is brilliant. Some of you know, so I'm not going to, this isn't a quiz, because some of you do know the answer to this. But I find this monumental. They do that thing for 3 days, and stuff comes up for how long? 20, 30, 40 years. God, amazing, just amazing. What's changed, the new thing, is that instead of going down, just down, a guy called George Mitchell, who's a guy of big age, I haven't met him, but I really like to, if anyone knows him. And this is quintessential America. And he built this. He put $30 million of his own money, and he said, why can't we go out from the one spot? Why can't we go down and over from the one spot? And the people said to him, nah, I don't think it can, nah. He said, nah, I think it can be then, go off and work your mathematics on it. And they worked the mathematics, and he was right. And that's what's changed. The effect is unbelievable. And if anyone in this room doesn't know what fracking is now, my God, you are going to know, and you need to have an opinion. What it's done is it has released an extraordinary amount of natural gas and oil in America. You have a situation where North Dakota, 5, 6, 7 years ago, wasn't producing much oil. There's oil in North Dakota, but not much. Now, North Dakota is the second largest producer of oil in the United States. The second largest after Texas. It has replaced Alaska. It is, if it was an OPEC country, the 4th largest OPEC country in the world. North Dakota. They had tumbleweed on the streets not that long ago. And anyone who wants to experience the American dream and have themselves just puffed up with enthusiasm and just, oh God, go to North Dakota, but bring your own accommodation. It is just fantastic. We can go back on this, but if anyone, I hope that explanation, I don't want to get into massive details, but basically they have a thing, it's called an eco-pad. You go down and you can go in all kinds of directions. So obviously you're getting an awful lot more stuff. And it's huge in Pennsylvania, it's huge in North Dakota, it's going to be huge in Ohio, and it's really interesting, by the way, that Obama is not making it an election issue. It's very interesting. Good luck with anyone trying to tell them that they're not going to frack in Ohio. Good luck with that one, A guy called Josh Fox has made a film called Gasland. It came out in 2010. I would say it's the most successful almost the most successful documentary ever made in terms of its effect. According to the film, if they frack where you live, your dog will start walking funny. You'll stop fancying your wife, you'll fall over, the horse will go blind, all kinds of bad things are going to happen, and then basically everyone's going to die. That's the basic story, and it's very dramatic, and the guy is a narrator, and he wears cool glasses, and he talks real cool, He's a real cool guy. And the central moment in the film is a moment where an ordinary guy lights his faucet on fire. And by the way, that guy is in Colorado. This is that's a scene in Colorado. The guy lights his faucet on fire. Woo, big flame. Very impressive. So somebody asked me to review this film, and I'm sitting on my couch looking at this, and I'm thinking, let's just check this flaming water out. And it doesn't take too long for you to discover that in this incredible country, America, which, God, amazing country, oh my God, amazing country. And for those of you who own land, yeah, I'm so jealous. But in this amazing country, there is so much oil and natural gas out there that you can literally light a flame and you can light the water on fire. And people in America have been doing it forever. And I like to say, in the days before television, God help the people, this was called entertainment. Honey, Sweetie, will we take the kids? Will we go and light the fire? Will we light the river tonight? Yeah, let's light the river. And people would go out, they'd light the river, they'd look at it. Wasn't that fun? And then they went home. It's quite sad, really, you know. And so we have, all over the United States of America, towns called Burning Springs. Burning Springs, Burning Springs. They're all over the place. And that's Titusville. Titusville, first place where the oil started. Can you believe, I love telling people this, can you believe that they discovered the oil in Pennsylvania? You know, they were drilling oil, they were getting oil out of the ground in Pennsylvania. The first ever kind of, we're running out of oil, started out of the guys from Pennsylvania. And the quotes are hilarious. It's like, there's no oil beyond Pennsylvania. Like, that's what they all said. There won't be any more oil anywhere else, you know. We're running out, we're running out. They love that, the environmentalists, we're running out, we're running out. So basically, this lighting water is nonsense. So we decided to go to Chicago, to a Q&A where this guy, Josh Fox, was showing his film, and to ask him about this, and to ask him why it was that he didn't include it in his film. Why didn't he include the fact that people in America always lit their water? And we had an amazing conversation, which is online, and you can check it out, and it's amazing. We put it up online. This is what he said, by the way. He thinks it's not relevant that people could always light their water. So he just left it out there as an implication that if they start fracking, your water will go on fire. By the way, Lisa Jackson, who does not like oil and natural gas, is not aware of one case of contamination of water caused by fracking. That's Lisa Jackson. I don't like her very much. What we decided to do after we discovered this, we decided we should make a film to tell the truth about fracking. And we thought, wouldn't it be fun if we used a very kind of cool tool to do that? Why don't we just ask the public for money? So we went on a thing called Kickstarter, which is usually used for people making films about saving the whale or the double-breasted something. Instead of that, or they want to start a cupcake thing or whatever, we went on and said, we want to tell the truth. There are a lot of lies and misinformation about it. Would you help us? And we said, anyone who gives us $1 will be on the credits of the film. We started the campaign, and the Huffington Post wrote about us on the second day because we made so much money. The Los Angeles Times even wrote about us. The Mail Online wrote about us. The Telegraph wrote about us. Politico even wrote about us. We got onto all of these, and we got onto TV in Canada, and even on HLN. And basically, and this is what the numbers looked like on day 29 of our campaign. We asked for $150,000. We got almost $250,000, and 3,200 people will have their names on the credits of our film about the truth about fracking. And one of the first things that we did was we went to Dimock, Pennsylvania. Some of you might know Dimock. Dimock has become famous as ground zero for, apparently Dimock is a disaster zone because it's doing lots of fracking in the area, and it's really bad, and everything's awful. So we thought we'll go to Dimock, Pennsylvania. In the film Gasland, there are litigants are interviewed, people who are really upset with the gas company in Dimock, and they're taking litigation. People in this room have been in litigation. You're not happy, something bad's happened. CNN have been to Dimock, Pennsylvania, and they found the litigants as well. There are 11 litigants in Dimock, Pennsylvania. We went to Dimock, Pennsylvania. We did something that journalists are meant to do. We went door to door to ask people about their water. Door to door. We met the litigants. But then we started meeting other people. Old people, young people. Oh, loads of them. In fact, we met 1,500 people who were part of an organization called Enough Already, who said the water in Dimock, Pennsylvania has always been crap. What I think is bizarre is that CNN didn't find those people. They didn't find all these people who always knew that the water was terrible. And I did a little calculation. What is 11 as a percentage of 1,500? It's less than 1%. So we're making a film for the 99% who want the truth told about fracking. In Gasland, just to give you a few ideas of the kind of things that there is, there's a part of the film set in Dish, Texas. I don't know if any of you know where Dish, Texas is. It's kind of a funny story. This is the mayor of Dish, Texas, a guy called Calvin Tillman. Calvin Tillman did a deal with the Dish television company. It's kind of funny. Do you know this story? It's hilarious. He did a deal with the Dish company, and he said if we change the name of the town to Dish, they'd get free cable for 10 years. So they changed the name of the town to Dish, Texas. Isn't he a piece of quality too, Calvin Tillman? So Calvin Tillman suddenly started to say on TV, a bit like, all these other stories, we're really sick. Everyone's really sick. We're, nosebleeds. We've got brain damage. Everyone's got cancer because of fracking. And he went on and on and on and on about this. But the thing that he didn't calculate, a little bit like the story up in Alberta, was that the health department in Texas take health issues very seriously. And they went to Dish, Texas, and I find this amazing because I've been to Texas, and Texans don't like cooperating with the government much. But in fairness, the people there gave blood and urine samples, and basically they discovered that I think it was 4 people in the town had high levels of benzene in their blood. Those 4 people are smokers. If you smoke, you will have benzene in your blood. The rest of the people in Dish, Texas have the same amount of nonsense in their blood as the rest of us, with no particular high peaks in anything. But doesn't stop Calvin Tillman, who now makes a career of going around the world terrorizing people with stories about brain damage, breast cancer, teeth falling out, blood, urine, not fancying people, all that good stuff. The other story that they have in the film Gasland is they show a creek, Dunkard Creek, where there was a fish kill. The EPA have said that the fish kill in Dunkard Creek was actually caused by runoff from a coal mine. It was nothing to do with fracking. But it doesn't stop the liars. And they are incredibly successful at getting this story out. I'm actually going to stop in 2 minutes. So we are making this film, Frack Nation. We are going to be coming out with it soon. Watch this space. And it's great, because it's great to tell the truth. And the thing about energy is that energy matters. And the problem with living in a country as marvelous and perfect and exceptional as this is that too many of us take all of it for granted. And stop realizing that when you plug things into the wall, that on the other side somewhere, someone has dug something out of the ground or pumped some oil out of the ground to make that work, to make that process work. And all of these students that have gone to these universities, none of them know where energy comes from. None of them know anything about electricity. And that's really a bother. And that's a real problem. So, in conclusion, and then I'm going to take questions, I am very disappointed by you not tweeting. You have to tweet, and I'll tell you why. And I go to tea party groups around the country, and I meet 80-year-old women who say, "Oh, I'm just too old to tweet." So I go down and beat them up. And here's what I say to them. And I say to them, I bet I can make you tweet. I bet I can make you tweet. And by the way, it's 140 characters. Get over yourself. That's what I say to them. And I say, maybe I'll try and give you a little motivational lesson in why you should tweet. How many people here know the story about Soledad O'Brien? Soledad O'Brien and Joel Pollak? No. Okay, fair enough. Of course, I'm proving my point here. Nobody watches CNN. But so there was a conversation. Joel Pollak from the Bigs, from Andrew Breitbart's Bigs, was brought on to Soledad O'Brien's show to talk about racial issues, whatever. Anyway, she disgraced herself. She basically behaved like she was a spokeswoman for the White House. She was appalling. People started tweeting it. People pulled out the quote and started tweeting it to each other. And people like me started saying to Soledad O'Brien, "You're a disgrace." And I suppose the background to this is that normally Soledad O'Brien has about 212 people who watch her show. Half of them are related to her. When she usually finishes the show, she gets these tweets. "You're lovely, Soledad. I love your blouse. What have you done with your hair? It's great." And then suddenly, she disgraces herself with Joel Pollak, and it behaves appallingly. And we start tweeting. We tweeted so much, and people like me around the country tweeted so much that she went on CNN and said, "Please stop tweeting." Wouldn't you like to annoy Soledad O'Brien? Is that not motivational for you? On our Facebook page, on our Frack Nation Facebook page, shortly after we kind of launched the page, the baddies come. They try to destroy you, and they throw stuff out at you and whatever. So a girl who had been to Berkeley, I think, a photojournalist, put a photograph up on our Facebook page of a blind horse. The blind horse of Dimmock, Pennsylvania. Well, the great thing about social networking is you can't control who's going to be there. It's not a closed community. So, of course, there's people who are coming to our Facebook page who live in Dimmock, Pennsylvania, like lots of them. All the people from Enough already. They start writing and saying, I know that horse. I know that horse. I remember the day that horse was born. That horse has always been blind. And lots of people start writing this and chronicling all this stuff about the horse. She pulled the picture. She pulled it. They don't like it. They don't like it. They don't like you on social media. So shouldn't you turn up? Shouldn't you tweet? You want change in November? Why don't you tweet about it? Don't sit there and be angry at the television. Do something. You can actively watch the television instead of destroying the television. And I have had that whole television problem. I talk to the television. My whole family were people who talk to the television. Are you that kind of family? And then I married a husband who, from his tradition and his family, they never did talk to the television. So we have little difficulties with that whole thing. But now I found Twitter, so I can tweet to the television. And you know something? They listen and they watch because these people are narcissists. Like I watched a TV show recently and I thought, it was really boring. I thought, my God, it's so formulaic. So I tweeted. The main actor wrote back to me and said, please give us another chance. They care, and you can tweet directly to the people. And more of you should turn up. This is very bad. I'm not impressed. How many people here are on Facebook? Okay, just when you started to pat yourself on the back, Facebook is not as strong as Twitter. It's not as strong as Twitter. Your Facebook page is a closed community. The Twitter, you are publishing to the world. And by the way, don't expect them to be nice to you. They will say horrific things. If any of you were fans of Andrew Breitbart's or friends of Andrew Breitbart's, as I was, you know what Andrew did. Andrew retweeted every piece of bile that was ever sent to him. And on the day that he died, I wrote a dedication. And I said, it wasn't a day for the people who wrote the bile, but it was a day for the people that he didn't like who were conservatives. And that's who I wrote about. Disgraceful conservatives who don't like telling the truth and who aren't really conservative in the first place. Because it's kind of, because they're not brave. They're not brave, they're not fearless, they don't take people on, and they don't try and convert people. I think you have to be evangelists. You've got this amazing story and you don't share it. What's that about? You've got to be sharing it, and by the way, you have to take on all those appalling people in your life that need to be talked sense to, who don't have any idea about money, who don't know anything about where electricity comes from, and all the rest of it. And you have to take them on, and you have to take them on the Twitterverse. How many people here might tweet and might join Twitter because of what I said? Let me tell you another thing to motivate you. I want to give you one more motivational, and then I'm going to stop and take questions. Andrew, who I always get upset when I talk about, so I'm going to try and keep it together today. Andrew had a dream, and his dream was, and he used to talk about it, he was such a visionary. My God, we don't produce many people like Andrew, and he's a massive loss. We've lost the future that he would have made for us. He talked about this dream he had, which was that the editor of the New York Times would walk into the New York Times building and it would be empty. Kind of, missing computers and, photocopiers gone and all that stuff, and kind of empty desks and sort of bits of paper strewn around. And he'd be really puzzled, and he'd walk to the window and he'd look out. And he'd look down the street, and he'd see a big building down the street. And down the side of the building would be the words, Breitbart. And all the lights would be on. And all the lights would be on. If you tweet, you're keeping the lights on. That's what it's about. I talk all over the country, and I meet people saying, we've got to get the country back. Yeah, well, what are you doing about it? What are you going to do about it? And from the comfort of your sofa, you can take them on Twitter, and you can retweet. Even if you don't want to tweet yourself, just retweet. And if anyone thinks I'm talking a foreign language, find that 12-year-old in your life to teach you this. Every one of you have some young person out there. They all know how to do this. Get them to set you up an account, and at the beginning, just retweet. Only do that for the beginning. Do this for people. Do it for Breitbart, anybody who really believed in him. I think it's like an active verb to Breitbart. Tell the truth. Shame the liars. I'll take questions. Yeah. Oh, I've only got 5 minutes, okay.
I just want to say our house is on a fracked oil and gas well, and I feel fine.
Yay! Thank you.
Where can we see Frack Nation?
Nowhere just yet. It's not finished. We're not, but you will know. You will know because we are going to make a lot of noise. We will not be hiding this film under a bushel. It'll be everywhere. That's the plan. So, but I will be keeping in touch with all networks. Please, I did put up there. I hope people took down a note. Mine, you can write to me at annemcilhinney@gmail.com. My Facebook is Anne McElhinney. I tweet at Anne McElhinney. There's nowhere to hide. I'm out there. My ass is so in the wind. It's crazy stuff. It's crazy. Anyone else? Any other questions? Any other
I just
thoughts?
want to know if anyone in this room knows Diane Mitch Bush's email address. Can anybody come up with that and bring it up to the front of the room? Thank you.
Somebody here? There's somebody here in the front. Oh.
We're from Mesa County, where there's a lot of fracking going on, and the interesting part is we have several severed mineral rights in Colorado, and no one gets sick that has the mineral rights.
Can I just say something about, I want to just say something about this because this is really interesting. One point, and then I'll talk to your point. Do you know that this is the only country on the planet, you know, I like obviously amazing, I mean, I love America, like it's just ridiculous how much I love America. I just love America. And you know, this thing about exceptionalism, I mean, God, the idea that there's even an argument, that there's even a conversation about it. I'll give you one exceptional America. This is the only country on the planet Earth where an individual can own mineral rights. And I think not enough Americans know that. I think not enough Americans know that. I have spoken to mineral owners, to royalty owners, who didn't know that. Only here. Only here. Everywhere else, it's the government and the crown. So you don't get... Now, severed mineral rights, listen, my sympathies. I just think that's sad. I'm sorry for anyone who severed their mineral rights. For example, I went up to North Dakota and I met people who were really annoyed about the fracking up there. And when I questioned them closely, all of them had severed mineral rights. Does everyone understand that? They bought a bit of land. You know, there's one woman up there, she's a teacher, she's very plausible, she's really annoyed about fracking. And you question her and question her, eventually she says, we never thought about the mineral rights. I'm thinking, dummy. She went up there, she bought some land. The auctioneer said to her, you know, for another couple of $1,000s, you could buy the mineral rights for each of the acres. No, we won't bother with that. You know, and nowadays, obviously, if you have the mineral rights, it's an incredible thing. Where people have severed their mineral rights, and, you know, sometimes it goes back an awful long way, which is possibly what you're referring to, where it's gone way, way back, and you've got somebody from somewhere else owning the mineral rights. I'm sorry. But there you go. But you're still, it's a vast improvement on places where no human being can own the mineral rights. Yeah.
I too live in the Socialist Republic of Illinois.
Oh, right.
And you have such a powerful voice. I need your advice because I'm always hearing about fracking and how it causes earthquakes. Okay. Can you give me a rebuttal?
Yeah. Human-induced seismicity. So human-caused earthquakes are nothing new. If you make a dam, if you're doing a hydroelectric plant, there will be seismicity connected to that. If you, the biggest culprit in terms of seismicity, human-induced seismicity, I think is geothermal, because it's consistent and it's all the time. With fracking, first of all, everyone understand this, yeah? There's about 1 million fracked wells in the United States of America. Have you noticed a huge amount of general seismicity across America? No. So that's the first thing. Also, the fracking lasts for 3 days. There have been occasions when there has been seismic activity connected to fracking, but not actually fracking. Injection wells. So the water that's used in the fracking process, in some cases, is being pushed back into the earth in different places. They did it in Youngstown, Ohio, and they caused a seismic event. A small seismic event, by the way, a smaller seismic event than in Youngstown. And by the way, not a seismic event that would have damaged anything. Similar to what it would feel like when a big truck was past your house, something like that. We can cause seismic activity, but do we cause an earthquake that would like destroy San Francisco? No. But I think the answer to that is, first of all, they're fracking all over the place. We don't have seismic activity all over the place. Where there have been events caused by injection wells, they shouldn't have done them in those spots. They shouldn't have done them there where there was a fault line, and they're learning from that. But it's not as generalized as geothermal. And by the way, the geothermal plant that I showed you, the geysers, is in Northern California. Do you think causing constant seismic activity there might be an issue? Bring that up with your environmental friends and ask them to explain it to you. I've got to go. They're throwing me out. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.